Hello, welcome to my space.
Her laundry was still in a bag at your house, and you assured me that's never how we would pan out. So I don't know how I was so easily surprised when so quickly someone new put those stars in your eyes. I hope that you're finding the comfort you need in a world full of thunderstorms.
My name is Tallie Gabriel. I'm a musician and a writer. I'm originally from Las Vegas, Nevada, but I've been in New York for 9 years now after I went to NYU Tisch and then stayed. On May 12th, I'm releasing my debut collection of poetry called Heart Garden, and it is being accompanied by a song. The idea for the title Heart Garden of that and the song comes from this feeling that I've often felt like I have all these ideas blooming all the time and all this stuff that like these seeds that are planted and I never let them get farther than here. Like I cut them off before they make it out and make it into the world. So the title is really kind of this like homage to this stuff exists in the world. I let it bloom and watered it and let it grow and didn't just, cut the heads of the flowers off before they could get there, because I would talk myself down and be like, well, why should I make that song, or why should I publish those poems? Nobody cares, or like, who am I to think that I can or should do that? And through really probably the work with Cardboard Rocketship, and then I started like briefly, I posted some poems on Instagram just to see how they would do, and like I would test the waters a little bit, and I just really changed that narrative for myself of like, no, who am I to not do this? I feel very grateful that my introduction to the music scene was with a band and with, 3 other people where we really have each other's backs the whole time. We were very much figuring it all out together and learning all these things together. And it was so helpful that when I then put out a solo EP, I kind of knew, I knew some of the things to do because we'd already done them as a band. And it was, I don't think I would have, actually I'm very positive that I would not have put out solo music without the band experience, because it also just gave me this confidence performing with 3 other people where I'm like, cool, I can just kind of blend in and I'm part of a group and all that stuff. And then playing alone, doing my own stuff felt less scary. And when I play my solo stuff, it's also usually not alone because there's other instruments and things. So I played cello when I was younger and stopped partway through high school because I was just not practicing cello anymore, and was like, I also just didn't really see a path for a cellist that wasn't classical music. And every example of like a professional cellist I could think of were people who competed for first chairs in their orchestras or soloing careers and things like this. And I just didn't, I was like, my examples felt very closed of that's what it means to be a cellist. And I was like, okay, I think I'm interested in this other thing maybe more. I was coming home one night from a restaurant shift and saw a cellist playing and singing together on the subway. He was playing like some Beatles covers and some originals, and playing the cello in a way that I just hadn't seen before and singing with it. And I was like, whoa. And I felt like I had this just like rush of nostalgia about like my sister and I would go to orchestra camp in the summers when we were younger. And I was like, I really miss that camaraderie that came with this instrument. But also I was like, there are ways to do stuff with this instrument that I just was not made aware of. Like, for whatever reason, there was just, I feel like the music I listened to in college and stuff, there just wasn't a lot of examples of people doing that with cello. And I also wasn't seeking it out because I just didn't think of that as part of my path anymore. But then I saw this person performing like that on the subway, and I had started crying. He was like, are you okay? But I was like, whoa, that it felt like it unlocked something. So I bought a used cello, a different one than this one actually. I bought a like really cheap, bad quality used cello, but I loved it. And got back into lessons and was like, I'm gonna do that again. And then a good friend of mine that I had studied abroad with in Amsterdam we did an experimental theater program in Amsterdam, and he was always writing a lot of music. And we got really close over that program and shared music and things like that. And he approached me at some point and was like, hey, I have this folk band, and I think it would be really cool if you're interested. I feel like cello would be really cool in this folk band. And I was like, yeah. And they had just been starting, and it started with a duo. He plays banjo and I was a guitarist, and then they roped in another vocalist, and then I was the final addition, and that became Cardboard Rocketship. That like clicked something in. It felt like, you know, when you've been like reaching for stuff all the time, and you're like, okay, that's almost it, but not quite, that's almost it. And then Cardboard Rocketship happened, and I was like, aha! like it truly was like, this is why I'm on the planet. Got it. So that's a cool feeling. And they became, they're my best friends.
You know, I think I'm feeling better. I'm feeling lighter than a feather. I wonder if it's cause the weather. Oh, now I know I'm feeling better. I'm feeling like I'm coming tethered. I'm feeling more better than ever. Oh, I'm really feeling better. You know, I think I'm feeling better. I'm feeling lighter than a feather. I wonder if it's cause the weather. Oh, now I know I'm feeling better.
Always very fun. It sucked during the pandemic not being able to play with them and have live shows, but yeah, that happened. And then I started writing some songs on my own that were a little bit softer and just not quite the Cardboard Rocketship vibe. So it was like, okay, now I have some other songs that are a different thing. Let's do something about that. And I put out an EP of those songs last year and continue. So now it feels nice to have like, there's clearly a project like with Cardboard Rocketship that is collaborative, that is that kind of like working together, feeding off each other excitement. And then I can have my like, when I'm just, you know, feeling a big feeling and want to write a song about it. And I do that for me and have those as well.
I listened to the story of how you met her and thought, I want that for us. If I write us a story that makes your heart sing, do you think that would be enough? It was all hope and longing and fulfilled wishes, and I found myself rooting for you. Could there be a version where you want me as badly, and I make those wishes come true? I wanna love you, so maybe I'll try. If I can't love you, I'm scared I won't understand why. Birdsong and sunbeams is how you make me feel. It's all fun and playful until somebody means it for real.
A couple of years ago, I broke up with the person that I thought I was maybe gonna marry. I thought I was gonna be with this person forever, and then it became clear that that wasn't it. And I was just like exploring like my relationship to love and relationships, and exploring like dating other people really for the first time in a while and all that stuff. So I started writing a lot of poetry about all that. I feel like lots of people have all kinds of messy, complicated New York City dating experiences. And I was like, let me just embrace that and see what works and write poems about it. So I wrote a lot about love and heartbreak and letting myself feel all the things. I feel like feeling really free as a musician as well. I felt like I was just like feeling all this stuff all the time. It was great. It's like, let's make art about it. But it feels like this kind of like conclusion of that chapter of my work for now. Of like, I've done a lot of like heart-based art. Like that's been at the core of just what I've been writing about, is like feelings, and especially feelings in relation to other people. And this feels like, cool, this is that chapter, kind of like final note of all of that. And then we'll see what comes next. There are just so many more avenues to being an artist and tapping into that in yourself and creating stuff that is exciting to you and doing what you want with it. I think like there's really an infinite number of ways to be an artist, and if you've gone to any kind of art school or training, it's often like you're shown a path to follow or an idea of what success has to look like. And I think people more and more really do understand like there is no one successful way to be an artist, but I think like that's just so important to remember, or for me to remember, it has been, that just like your success does not have to look like anybody else's, because it won't ever look exactly like anybody else's. And as long as you're making stuff that is genuine and comes from a place of like you made it because you wanted to make it and you had to make it, then you can't really fail, can you?
Across the evening sky, all the birds are leaving, but how can they know that it's time for them to go? Before the winter fire, I will still be dreaming. I have no thought of time.